live and direct from anywhere in the world. It's The Kelley Show with Dr. Kelley Mondesire.
Hello and welcome to The Kelley Show, real people with real stories in real time. And I am your host, Dr. Kelley Mondesire, and we're wrapping up our month of March, the Irish invasion. And what better way to end and say goodbye would be an Irish wake? I don't know. Well, stay tuned, because after a word from our sponsor, I have a very, very special guest on the show today who is known as the GLAM REAPER. So we'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Here's a word from our sponsor.
This portion of The Kelley Show is being brought to you by White Wolf Advisory Services. We are the bridge between nations, creating growth, commerce and collaboration between cultures. Contact us today for more information.
Welcome back to the show. So as promised, we're wrapping up the month of March, the Irish invasion, with a really great woman, a good friend of mine. She is the president, owner, founder of Muldowney Memorials, and she's also known as the GLAM REAPER. So, Jennifer Muldowney, come on down, come into the studio. How are you?
Hi, Kelley. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Happy month of Irish madness and mayhem.
Irish month, yes. We claim the whole month, like women for our birthdays. We're taking the whole month now.
I like to take the whole year for my birthdays personally. When you get to a certain age, you celebrate every day. You never know how many tomorrows you have. Speaking of how many tomorrows do we have? Oh, I just made that up. We'll start with, where are you from? Where in the world are you? Tell us, who are you?
So I am from Dublin in Ireland. I'm currently in Florida. But I live between Florida and New York, but I still call Ireland home. So I'm a little bit of a, I guess I flit between all of them. But yeah, I'm from Ireland and Dublin. I go home regularly. I do even have a few clients that come to me from Ireland. But right now I am in Florida, and I've just been in New York for the last while. So yeah.
Sunny Florida. I see the palm trees behind you.
Yes. Yes. No, it's beautiful here. Really nice.
Okay. So you are a celebrant. You
Yes.
are a memorial. Now, let me get this right. A memorial planner, like a wedding planner, but a little bit different. Can you please tell our viewers what all that means and what led you to this profession?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm not a funeral director. I don't own a funeral home. So you are correct. I am a celebrant, which is like a priest, but not a priest or a rabbi. What we're, especially in Ireland, we're familiar with the Catholic priest. So I do the role of a priest at a funeral. And a lot of people are familiar with that in the wedding space. A lot of people will get a celebrant for their wedding, but they're not quite used to it yet for funerals, which is really interesting to me, because your funeral is your sort of your last soiree with the world, your last farewell, your final sort of goodbye. And it should represent everything that you encompass. So that's sort of how I came into the memorial planning. It was about 16 years ago in Ireland. I was actually had my own wedding and party planning business, Roxy Pop Events, named after my two dogs. And I sadly, two friends of mine passed away, and they were my friends, but they were also my best friend's siblings. So I found myself in this rare position where I was grieving. I was also questioning my mortality, because when you're in your 20s, you think that, there's no clock ticking per se. You think you've so many decades left. Life doesn't ever seem like it will end. And so I was questioning my mortality. I was grieving my friends, but I was also trying to be there for my best friends and help them, because they were going through it with their families. They had funerals to organize. And so I found myself doing all these sort of things. And also equally being an event planner, I found myself sitting in the church for both of these young gentlemen, we went to the funeral home and we went to a church, and I found myself sort of saying, well, that's not what I'd want. And one of them was atheist. So I was like, why are we in a church? This isn't really him. So it just sort of got the cogs going. And, you know, as I said, I was a wedding planner. And so what was different here? For a wedding, there's two people at the top of the church saying, I do. In this case, unfortunately, obviously, there's a body in a casket, or a coffin, as we would call them in Ireland, which there is a difference between those before anybody comes for me. It's just the shape. But people use the words interchangeably. So
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a very, people in the industry can get very particular about the terms we call things. So I'm very much on the whatever makes you comfortable. Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard enough as it is. So whatever makes you comfortable. If you want to call it a coffin, but I know it to be a casket, that's fine. Call it a coffin, you know.
Semantics, I suppose.
Exactly.
So what does being a celebrant or a funeral planner actually entail? What happens? And specifically, because this is the month of March, mm-hmm. I know you do have clients, mm-hmm. call them clients, yes, mm-hmm. Who need to go back home to Ireland. So can you mm-hmm. give me a broad idea of what all that looks like? And I know you always do it with flair and style, so knock yourself out here. Yeah,
well, it's also, I will say, preface this by saying that everyone assumes that I'm talking about throwing a party, and, you know, I'm like, it's so far from that. It's not dancing on people's graves. It's very much representing the deceased. And there is two schools of thought that, you know, a funeral is for the living, and then the other school is, no, a funeral is for the deceased. I am very much in the middle, where I believe it should be cathartic and healing for the living, 100%. It's how we start our grief journey, but it also needs to be really, really personalized and representative of the deceased. Now, I do have a book called Say Farewell the Irish Way. It's my second book, and it's sort of a play on my first book is called Say Farewell Your Way. The second book is Say Farewell the Irish Way, which tells people, especially diaspora like me, who are all over the world. I mean, I think there's like 33 or 35 million of us in America or something like that. Mm. So there's a lot of us all over the world. We're not in Ireland anymore. So this is sort of, it's a book educating people on how to say farewell the Irish way. And that can mean 100 different things, honestly, Kelley. So what you're talking about, you know, about wanting to go back home, that's called repatriation, which is where I have passed away, say, in New York, and my body is then shipped to Ireland for my final journey as such. Now, that can be a very expensive process. There's a lot of companies that do it, very ethical, amazing companies. I'm happy to recommend if anybody finds themselves in that horrific situation. There's a lot of incredible charities like the Kevin Bell Repatriation Fund, where, you know, a lot of people found themselves in that horrific scenario where a young person left to find, you know, their dream in America, and unfortunately came home in a box a year later. I mean, there's a lot of people who then aren't prepared. Like, that's the really interesting thing between weddings and funerals is people spend years or months at least planning and saving for a wedding, but they don't for funerals. And so especially when it's somebody young and unexpected, they're left in a really bad predicament. So people like the Kevin Bell Repatriation Fund help to fund that for people. I try to give people options, because a lot of us Irish will assume getting them home is the best way forward, right? It's what we do. We like to bring our people home, should I say. Whereas I, very early on, I made specific requests to my parents in my own pre-plan that I did in my 30s, which I know sounds crazy, that I did not want to be repatriated. To me, the $10,000 you're going to spend bringing my body home, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be embalmed. I don't want to be seen. So therefore, come and visit me. In fact, use the 10,000 to upgrade yourself to first class flights if you have to. But, you know, if my mum, some people want to see the person, like it's their way of dealing and realizing its reality, because a lot of people, without seeing the deceased, the denial phase lasts for a hell of a lot longer. So I told them, I'm like, if you want to come and see me, fine, but I am not being embalmed. I am not being shipped home. You can cremate me here, and you can bring some of my ashes home to be scattered. Now, I also have last wishes as far as, you know, being cremated and going back to Provence and having a big badass party
to celebrate, and no priest and this, but how do you ensure that the people you have entrusted with those last determinations of what you want done with your remains, how do you ensure that they don't at the last minute, and I've seen this, say, oh, well, we can't, oh, well, we have to embalm them, or, oh, no, we can't do this, or, ooh. And they go against the wishes of the deceased? Who controls, and how do you ensure that what you want done once you've passed is actually executed the way you have wished?
So that is a great question. And I get that a lot, especially I do a lot of pre-planning sessions, workshops with seniors. And so they're obviously putting their plans into place, which is great. And I do have a free pre-plan. I have a small one and a large one that I'm happy to email to any of your listeners. And I'll absolutely share it. And maybe we can come back and we can talk you through, through your options. Because I believe it's so important. Now, here's the thing that I'm always crystal clear with people, like I'm crystal clear that I am not a funeral director. In the United States of America, which I do find quite ironic that it's called the United States of America, every state is different, right? Every state. And so I am not a lawyer, and I'm not a legal, I'm not a funeral director. And those two people are legally, they have to tell you what your options are, and they have to make sure that legally what is binding and isn't binding. So something that's binding in New York may not be binding in LA, for example. And especially like you just recently moved, Kelley, there's a lot of things when you move state to state, you have to set things up. So I would say that you make sure, get your pre-plan written, and share it with your accountant and your lawyer, whoever you have your last will and testament with. Tell your loved ones, put it in a safe, somewhere like that. And entrust, there is legal options that you can state by state get, where you entrust somebody and it's a legally binding document that you do not want. And I could talk about this clearly for a long time, but there's even obviously nowadays with our digital legacy, it's becoming a huge thing. So now we don't even have the, when you go into hospital, do not resuscitate, your DNR. Well, now we're having a do not reanimate. So for example, you might want to say, Kelley's voice and face is not to be reanimated 100 years after her death. There's a lot of things that are changing, and they're changing so fast the law can't keep up with them. Now, I'm fascinated with all of this, and again, a lot of funeral directors don't even know about a lot of these options. So it's very interesting space to be in, because it is historically archaic, and not every funeral director is going to know all the options. So it's tuning into shows like yours that have the cojones to talk about these topics. It's tuning into my podcast. It's tuning into the information I put out on social media. It's not to say I am always crystal clear. I am not an expert on everything. There's certain things that sometimes it can be hearsay, but I like to just, at least let's have the conversations and start talking about it. For example, the people listening to this, they might, and I hope that they do, at lunchtime today, at dinner tonight, that they turn around to whoever's around them and say, hey, do you want to be buried or cremated?
Right. Gareth is whispering in my ear, you've given us some slides that he's just dying. Oops, I shouldn't say that word. Itching. We love this photo. Can you tell us, this is part of your story, when was this taken, and where is this, and why?
So this was taken a couple of years ago when we were doing a photo shoot to sort of really represent me and who I am. And what I love is there's another photo that I share on my social media page on Muldowney Memorial's Instagram that is a similar photo of me in that outfit, laughing. I'm sitting down, I'm laughing.
And in red.
Yes, and I'm in red. And I put the picture beside Lurch from the Addams Family. And I make the comment that what everyone thinks we look like in the funeral business versus me and what I look like. I've been in the business 16 years. I got the nickname the GLAM REAPER from the British media. Thanks very much, guys. Yeah, and it did stick. At first I hated it, but honestly, previous to that, I was known as the dead girl in networking situations. So GLAM REAPER was a step up, honestly. So this was very much, it was taken in Dumbo with obviously gorgeous New York skyline behind me. And it just, to me, really represents who I am and who I greet my families with. Like, I don't whisper to them. I'm really empathetic. I'm really compassionate. Thankfully, I have, nothing but 5-star reviews. Like, I am good at my job, but I also don't treat my clients with kid gloves. They are grieving, but we all grieve in very different ways. And some of them want to laugh. Some of them want to be told it's okay to cry, to be told it's okay to laugh. Like, one of my most viral, and I have to kind of mention this at the moment because it's actually insane. One of the most viral posts I have posted on my Instagram page, and I mean, it's got like nearly 1 million views at this point, is it's an urn. A lady put her mother's ashes into this mason jar instead of a proper urn. And every month she decorates it. So January could be with snow, October is a mummy, St. March is St. Patrick's, Valentine's for February, and she decorates it. And what I love about it is she is reconnecting with her mom's ashes, or cremains, as somebody again corrected. Like, the police are out there correcting everybody. I'm like, call them whatever you want. But she's there, connecting with her mom once a month. And that's her grieving process. And so I'm very much like, this picture sort of represents, you do you. And like, I love to wear red. I'm not going to be in black all the time. I do wear black a lot because that's my style. But you might see me in a red dress with runners or tennis shoes, as you guys call them. It's just it.
Well, I remember when I was a teenager, I had a friend whose sister was a little quirky, but I used to smoke, cigarettes at the time. And I saw this big, huge kind of mayonnaise jar next to me, and I saw it was all ashes. So I feel, well, the sister's collecting ashes, from the cigarettes. And so I was using it as an ashtray, And
oh my God.
And my friend came upstairs, to the room where I was sitting, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Are you putting your ashes in that jar?" I said, "Yeah, I'm adding to the collection." She said, "That's my sister's collection of pets."
Oh my God.
Since the cigarette ash looks so different, I put the button there. I had to kind of like fish it all out and kind of swish it around and make it look like nothing happened.
Oh God. Well, I guess this is a note to, I've never heard of anybody doing that, but this is a warning to anybody else. If you see ashes in a home, don't assume it's cigarette. Oh my God.
I swear to Jesus. Yeah, I swear,
And they actually do look very different. Oh, here's another fabulous photo.
Oh, they do. What did I know, though? I was 16.
I mean, of course.
I love
yeah.
this photo. Can you tell me, what are you doing here so elegant, madam?
So this is me at work, quite literally. So I'm a celebrant here. And this photo specifically is me at the annual Funeral Directors Association, the New York State annual Funeral Directors Association. I've done their remembrance service for the last 4 or 5 years now, I think it is. So they ask me back every year, and it's always a wonderful service where they remember all the funeral directors and funeral director families who are grieving and have lost people in the previous year. So glamour shot.
So I have a theoretical question for you. Okay. I'll use myself as an example so people out there, our viewers, can start thinking about this. All right. Well, first of all, I have a motto: heaven doesn't want me and hell's afraid I'm going to take over. So until those two dudes decide who gets me, I'm a ping pong, I'm like the ping pong ball. I'm stuck here with the rest of you. Okay. But however, when the day should come, all right, I know what I want, and I've got it written down, and I want to be cremated. I want a spanking party. I want champagne. I want laughing and music. I want people to share stories about me, no holds barred. But there are 2 very special songs I want: Tom Petty, Free Falling, and U2, Still Can't Find What I'm Looking For. Okay. I want my ashes to go to Provence, whoever takes them, big holiday, give them money, blah, 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 blah. No priest, no, mourning, nothing like that. Just a big, nice cocktail party.
Okay.
So how do I know this goes state by state, but how do I relate this to, say, my sibling who might be a devout Catholic and think, well, we have to have a priest come in and do a service. However, I'm not Catholic. So how does one speak with their loved ones, about, here's what I have written down. This is what I want. How do you know they're going to promise and keep that promise to deliver?
Well, it's like, as I said, it's putting it on paper, communicating it with them and communicating with people who are in charge of your affairs after you're gone. So, you're a lawyer, your accountant, and you can also go and make a pre-plan at a funeral home, and, you can detail everything out. Now, again, depending on what the scenario is, like your next of kin is legally in charge. So you need to make sure whoever you nominate as that they are crystal clear on your wishes. Now, obviously, you did mention something like medically, there may be certain things that just have to happen depending on how you die and what happens, but it's sewing it up as much as you can. And so that's really putting it down on paper, signing it, having it witnessed, and just making sure that the funeral home you've selected, and making sure that your lawyer knows, and that it's all legally binding.
Okay. And I think that's important for people to know. Oh, here's your book. Look at you. Now tell me, where was this photo taken? Tell us about the book, and what were you thinking in that photo?
I know I look very pensive. That photo was taken when my first book came out. So that photo is probably about, it was after my first book was taken out because it was a promotion. So it was probably about 14 years old. That's why I look young and pale, a lot paler actually. I hadn't been coming stateside at that stage. So I'm trying to think of the cemetery. I think it might have been Glasnevin Cemetery because that's where my office was around then at the time. But yeah, that was my first book. I'm now on book 4. Wow. And writing, trying to finish that, even though I've been talking about that for a year at least. But some of them come easy. Like I wrote that book in 2 months, believe it or not.
And what was that book about specifically?
That book was very much born from sitting in those funerals of my 2 first friends and realizing that I wanted something different, that I wanted to I'm a control freak, wanted to control what my funeral would be, and very much just taking from, especially young girls have their weddings planned, from when they were children. So this was me sort of planning my own funeral. And I started the business 16 years ago. And then it was only after a while of being in the business, which was very interesting because the funeral directors were like, who's this one? And Irish people, because I started in Ireland, Irish people didn't have a clue what I was talking about. They were like, but if you're not a funeral director, what are you? It was a very new concept. Even wedding planners back then was relatively new. And then a publisher approached me about writing the book, and that's how that came out. So yeah, that was my 31st birthday was when that book came out. So I'm after aging myself by saying 16 years. So yeah.
Well, you look fabulous. God bless you.
Thank you.
So where do you see your business going forward we have a joke, Florida is God's waiting room. Business is booming for you here,
Yeah. Well, baby steps first. So we only just got here. 2024 was a big year for me, for a lot of my goals. I finally got the green card accepted. Yeah, well, we only just got here to Florida. So 2024 was a big year. 2025 is promising already to be an even bigger year. But 2024, 2 of the main goals was my green card, making it official that I stay in the US, and also, exciting things. And most Irish, whether you're born here or not, I think will empathize with that journey, and but also the expansion into Florida. So a lot of my clients up in New York, they were either New Yorkers at heart who'd retired to Florida, or vice versa, that they maybe were from Florida but just had ended up in New York for whatever reason and had passed away. So I just found there was a lot of symmetry between the two, and it just seemed like the next best step. So I bought a condo here that could sort of be Muldowney Memorial's HQ in Florida. It's right between the juicy spot of Miami and Boca Raton, West Palm Beach and Palm Beach, because Miami obviously is a lot of younger career people, but they're the ones who are burying or saying farewell to their parents and grandparents. So you don't want to discount, you don't want to be moving to where all the retirees are, which is also an awful thing to be just saying, but I guess that's my clientele, as people will very honestly
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's part of living. It's part of living. So we have a tradition here on the Kelley Show that we ask all of our guests if you could name one person, place, thing, or experience that you are grateful or thankful for, who or what would it be? And I think Garrett has a slide for this. Oh, that's nice.
I get emotional seeing them. Yeah, so that's my family. That's at my book launch, which, as we've just discovered, was 11 years ago and not 16. Yeah, so that's my brother, my mom, me, and my dad. And yeah, they've been with me through thick and thin, and they've just always been a source of inspiration and calm in the storm, honestly. They're very different, my parents. My dad was self-employed his whole life. My mum, very much a 9-to-5-er, even though she doesn't do more than that. But, she worked in a bank, she worked in corporate. She was more sort of the office gal, and my dad is, as my mum would say, is more like me, and we are the entrepreneurs. And my brother probably follows my mum's footsteps more in the 9-to-5-er. So it's good because my mum grounds me in terms of making sure that my business takes care of me 12 months of the year, because you can, as any business owner that you've got listening, you can have your peaks and your troughs, and your peaks, the financials have to take care of the troughs. Like, it can go up and down, and it can have really quiet months. And obviously with what I do for a living, I can't force people to die and use me. So that could be a bit awkward, so I have to take care of things as, the 12 months out of the year. So they definitely, like, my dad will inspire me to have bigger aspirations for myself and to sort of think big, whereas my mum is the more grounding, let's make this make sense, what is it logically and stuff. And then my brother is just a great sounding board. I was very blessed to fly him over to New York for his 40th birthday in 2024. So that was really, really special time, because he's married with kids now. So nice.
Shucks, I was going to ask if he was available, but he's a little too young for me. He's a cutie pie.
He is, and he was very popular when he was here with all the ladies.
I'll bet. With that smile. Well, we're running out of time, so we want to thank you. Gareth and I, we've had a lot of laughs behind the scenes in the green room. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is really important information that people shy away from talking about for a myriad of reasons, but I hope our audience has a takeaway and will share this information today and understand that it's not, someone that looks like Lurch that's behind memorial planning. But if any of our viewers would like to reach out to Jennifer, she has her contact information up here. Wonderful logo, by the way. It's so stately. I love it. Absolutely beautiful. She is the GLAM Reaper. So thank you so much for coming on. Since we're almost neighbors, let's try to hook up in the middle
in real life.
Yeah, well, in real life, I don't know what's real at this point.
Yeah,
it's I always say there is no life; it's only living. It's just a matter of how the soul continues on. But that's just my jam. But anyways, thanks again for being on the show. And if you would like to be on the Kelley Show, please write into us. Our contact information is below. Send us your contact information, where we can reach you, where in the world you are, more importantly, why you would like to be on the Kelley Show and what your story is. And don't forget to subscribe to the Kelley Show. Information is down here. We would appreciate your support. Tell a friend. It's a great show, great information. And as we wrap up the month of March, the Irish invasion, we're going out with a bang with the GLAM REAPER. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. And thank you. Next month, we are going to explore the world of agriculture and who is actually feeding the world and putting the food on our tables. So stay tuned. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial. We'll see you next Tuesday. Gareth, take it away.
If you would like to be a guest on The Kelley Show, send us an email with your contact information, where in the world you are, and a brief description of the story you'd like to share today.
Thank you.